everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. We're really excited today. We are back with a romance reading wrap up. We have been missing for a couple months. Things got kind of crazy in our lives, but we're so excited to be here. I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and Bree is here.
Hi, everybody. I've missed you, Rachel.
Really have. Like, I'm not even kidding. Good thing
we just talked for 20 minutes.
Yeah. Good thing I have text so we can still keep in touch because definitely I've missed our monthly reading catch-ups.
Yeah, and you've been reading so much, and I feel like for February and March and some of April, I feel like I didn't read hardly anything. So when you were like, let's do it, I was like, yes, let's talk about books.
Well, I mean, you have had finishing up your schooling and getting a job. Yay. So exciting. And you've had a bit going on in your life.
Yeah. And you're always, watching some movie or at a play or at Christmas Con.
Christmas Con.
I have to do better and keep up with Christmas Con. Did they announce where it's going to be next year yet or no?
They haven't yet. I mean, aside from the one in New Jersey, which we know will be happening in December, but they haven't announced for next summer, to my knowledge. But next year, yeah, you gotta.
I want to go.
Yeah,
I want to go.
Yeah.
Can you believe we're only days away at this point from Christmas in July? Are you ready?
No, I'm not ready. I was thinking about it the other day because I was talking to Baker Bookhouse. So we're gonna Karen, who runs Baker Bookhouse, we'll be talking about much of her books. But I was talking to her about upcoming sponsorships, and I said Christmas season is gonna be here before we know it.
Before we know it,
like we start. People might not know, but we start planning for the Christmas season in August.
Yeah.
So it's coming.
If you wait till after that, it's too late.
It is too late. And that's what was so stressful about 2020. And I think even 2021 was they were so late in getting us.
You were freaking out. You were
the
freaking
schedules. Oh, I was freaking out. It was so they didn't put out a schedule, I don't think, in 2021. I don't think they put it out until October.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that one year.
Just
it was
kind of
really late. Yeah.
What?
And then we have so much to cover. We have Hallmark. We try to keep up with Lifetime because they really stepped it up last year. Lifetime was great, and Up TV is great, and they do so many things too. Yeah. So I'm just excited for us. I know it's a busy time.
Yeah.
But it's such a fun time
too. And like I said, we have been working with Baker Bookhouse Publishing for a couple of years now. And particularly for this year, they have been practically our full sponsor almost every week. I'd say Amazing. 2/3 of the weeks probably. And so that's been a lot of reading for me. Most of my reading has been books for the podcast, and I've been so privileged to be able to interview all of the authors, and that's been great. And
you've been doing fantastic.
I'm waiting for that book that I really don't like, because so far I've enjoyed all of the books to varying degrees. And so far we've been lucky in that regard.
I know. A friend reached out to me and they were like, don't you and Rachel just miss Hallmark Publishing? A friend, bookish friend that listens to the podcast. And I was like, oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a year now, Rachel?
That's crazy. Has it
been a year?
Well, no, the last one that I think it's been a year since the announcement.
Yeah. Okay. That's right.
Because the last one that they did was the Sweeter Than Chocolate, Lizzie Shane.
That's right.
In February.
That
was the last one. But yeah, that was such a bummer because I was sad for the authors, obviously, especially the ones that had signed deals and were expecting to get books published. That was a super bummer for them. But I was just bummed for myself because I'd worked so hard to build up that relationship with Hallmark Publishing.
Yeah.
And they'd sponsored probably 2 or 3, maybe more weeks of the podcast, and I had a good relationship with the marketing lady. We still are actually
I
like
know,
friends,
she's
and
great.
with her name's Katie, and so I was just so excited about that, and then
Yeah.
because that's really the only major contact that I've been able to successfully have with Hallmark itself, as far as the podcast, was with Hallmark Publishing. So that was a bummer, but that's the thing with whenever you are a freelancer, you just have to constantly be kind of moving on to the next gig,
Yeah.
the next idea, the next because as soon as you get kind of comfortable, it immediately changes. And that's sort of part of the challenge, but also sort of the thrill of it in a way. But
you never expected Hallmark Publishing to end.
Like, I didn't realize how big a part of Hallmark Publishing Stacy really was.
Yeah.
That it was, I mean, I knew that it was her idea, but I didn't realize it was like so dependent on her. Because pretty much as soon as she left,
it was a wrap.
It was done. Yeah.
And listeners, we had a fun interview with her.
Oh, yeah.
Here on Hallmarky's podcast that you can,
yeah, I know. Absolutely. She's absolutely wonderful, and I wish her all the best. But yeah, I didn't realize just how interconnected that really was with her.
I mean, that's from the outside looking in. We may not know all the details, and we could be totally wrong, but from following her, because we love her, it's like she kind of announced, "Hey guys, I'm moving on," and then boom, the whole publishing house is, and you're like, as a speculator, you're like, wow. Yeah, she calls it. She leaves and moves on, and the whole thing is
really
gone.
The linchpin of this whole thing.
Yeah. I did finish a book with it. I know both. I think you finished it a while ago. I literally finished it like right before we hopped on here. So can I ask? Yeah. Okay. I finished Happy Place by Emily Henry.
Yes.
What did you think, Rachel?
So I thought it was fun, but I have to say, I like almost immediately forgot it. It was not as memorable as her other books. Like, I could tell you the plot of Beach Read, People We Met on Vacation, and even though it's been a long time since I read those books, I'm having a hard time recalling, even though I just read it, what was Happy Place about.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought it was all right.
Yeah, I think that for one, it feels really long, and I hate to say that because realistically it's like 300 and maybe 60 pages. I don't know, a little less than 400. So it's not crazy long, but there's almost like, I really don't remember much from like the first half, except for like the main trope of like a couple forgot to tell their best friends that they were broken up. And so they're kind of like faking the funk because they're all back at this like main cabin together. I always go back to that Hallmark movie with Tyler Hynes and the beautiful actors who I can never remember. Christmas
Bethany Joy.
Yes, from like 2 years ago. We had to tell our family we broke up. I love that trope. So I remember that, but everything else is kind of muddled. I will say, I think the second half is the strongest when it's like everything, the crap hits the fan.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of over after that. So yeah, I don't know. She's get this big name in like spring, summer. We come to know that like we're gonna get an Emily Henry like mid-spring release.
Yeah.
And I just like I was saying, I was like, I haven't read one yet that's become like a new favorite book yet, but I will read everything she puts out at the same time. Like I just have to be part of the hype. And yeah, I don't know. Happy Place was just kind of okay. I wanted to love it.
I agree. I felt the same. It was her more forgettable novel. Yeah, definitely. I mean, by the fact that I've literally forgotten it.
Yeah. You loved People We Meet on Vacation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was awfully perfect, like this paragon of virtue, but he was a hunky paragon of virtue. Yeah. And so yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. But I do think Beatrix is still my favorite. It's still the best.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's often the case. First novels, they're just a little bit uninhibited, you know,
Yeah.
than in other ones. But she's, very talented writer.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Thought we would do for this episode is just kind of go over a bunch of the stuff that we've read this year, maybe kind of like almost like a best of 2023 so far. And so there's a bunch. I'll start off with my favorite. So I really loved In This Moment by Gabrielle Meyer. And this is the second in this series, her Timeless series. And so I haven't read that first one, but I'd like to. And I thought the whole premise was extremely creative. Basically, it's there's these people that are born with multiple lives. So they're born and they have a life in this one that I read. She has a life in 1881, in 1941, and in 2001.
Wow. Okay.
And you have until you just wake up in the morning and you're in these different lives. And then when she turns, I think it's 21, she has to decide which of the three she wants to go with.
Okay.
And I thought she did not only, I think that's a very creative concept for a story, but I thought she did such a good job of keeping me genuinely in suspense of what she was going to pick. All three were compelling and all three had love interests and all three made sense in a certain way. And so I just really enjoyed the whole premise, the whole story. I thought she did such a good job of really capturing the 1800s, 1940s, and 2001. I really enjoyed interviewing her. And it has a very mild faith element, but it's pretty tame. Most of the Baker Bookhouse have a little bit of faith in the books, but I would recommend this one to anyone. I just thought it was such a clever story, really good characters, well written. Have you ever heard of it?
No, but now I'm so into. Because at first when you started talking about it, I was like, is it a time travel? But it's no, you said she just wakes up at these different times and then she has to decide which one do I want to go with. That's incredible.
Yeah. And I guess her parents have the same gene. And then at the end, she ends up having twins who also have the same gene. And so I guess the incoming books are going to be about the twins. I'm like, that is really fun.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
I can see how that's a favorite of the year.
Yes. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was clever, well written. So what about you? What's another favorite for you?
Okay. I feel like you and I have probably talked about this, and I feel like maybe I mentioned it on the podcast, but I don't know when that would have been. So listeners, forgive me if I have talked about this book already, but I'm screaming from the rooftops. People need to read it. So my first, I'd say like standout of the year was Her Man of Honor by Terry Wilson. It's a Harlequin special edition. It has a cute cover of like a couple. You can see them from the back of a taxi cab. Um, there is like, so it's best friends to lovers, like like gosh, like I want to say like childhood best friends, like they're best friends. And the heroine is like a wedding advice column guru who at the very beginning of the book finds herself jilted at the altar. And she's like in the closet hiding and crying away, and her best friend comes in and he's there for her. Terry Wilson's romances are like closed door fade to black. I haven't read anything with like, anything explicit on it yet, but that night of like being there for her turns into a pregnancy. And it's it goes from like, childhood best friends to lovers to also like, I'm pregnant. How are we going to do this kind of thing? So it was a fun way to like see their relationship evolve. And I just think that reading it, like it felt very Terry Wilson. It felt like you can feel the vibes of like her love of princess weddings and Sex in the City. Like it just felt like she has wanted to write this book for a really long time. And it's like the book of her dreams. And it just like sparkled with like her writing. So you guys have to go
Ah,
get it. Her Man of Honor by Terry Wilson. She's already, I think the next book comes out in September. And then I think she recently revealed the third book's cover, which I believe is a Christmas one. So there's more to come.
mm.
So that's Her Man of Honor.
Yeah, she's had a good run with Harlequin, it feels like,
Yeah, she's great.
lately. So that's cool. I definitely want to read that. Well, my second favorite that I've read that was also a sponsor for the pod, I really enjoyed Fairest of Heart by Karen Whitmire. Enjoyed talking with Karen. But this was, I thought, very clever. It takes the story of Snow White and it adapts it into the old time West,
Okay.
Texas.
Oh,
Yeah, which was very clever. And basically, this woman named Penelope Snow, and she there's this duplicitous woman named Narcissa who is out to kind of get her, and very jealous of her relationship with this Texas Ranger named Titus. I
okay.
thought she really killed it in the names. I mean, come on. And there's this like troop of cowboys that kind of take Penelope under their wing. And they're kind of the dwarf characters of the
Oh,
story,
okay. Okay.
which was really fun. So I enjoyed it just on a like, oh, that's clever, but also I thought the characters were good. And it was a little bit more like saucy than you typically see from Baker book, just with Narcissa being like really evil, really fun. And so I enjoyed the camp. I thought it had a little bit of a camp factor that was fun.
I feel
So
like you don't see a lot of Snow White retellings.
no. And now she's gonna do, she's already, I think, written there's a Cinderella, but it's Cinderfella. Like, yes,
Okay.
hilarious.
Let's
Um
gender swap it.
yeah, and I think she's gonna do like Sleeping Beauty. I love this whole idea. I think it's very clever.
You're such a Disney princess, Rachel. You're such a
Uh,
Disney princess.
but I mean, she's right, because you've seen fairy tale retellings in, like, I've seen there's the Cinder series, which I don't know if you've ever read those, but they're it's it's the fairy tales kind of through a cyborg. lens.
Yeah, I remember those being
They're
big.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I mean, I say that I've only read the first one, but I really enjoyed it.
Mhm.
I also really love Geekerella. Have you ever
I
read
haven't
that?
read
So
Geekerella.
fun. Where instead of it being like a ball or an enchanted, town, it's Comic-Con,
Oh my
and the
gosh.
prince
Yeah.
is like an actor in Comic-Con. So clever, so fun. Um, so I'm a big fan of these sort of fairy tale retellings, but I have never seen one with the Old West. So
Yeah.
that's very smart, I thought of her.
I love
And
that. So is
and
it like historical kind
yeah, I mean, yeah,
of? Okay.
like, but it's like set in Texas, Old West.
Old West.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, like I said, Texas Rangers and stuff like that. And so, I mean, I doubt you'd go to it for like major historical accuracy, but like, she tries, I think, to do the research and stuff. But yeah, it's got a very delicious villain, which is narcissist.
We're here for the villains, okay?
Yeah, yeah. That was one of my favorites.
So
What about you?
my next one that I really enjoyed was their Sweet Coastal Reunion by Kaylee Newell. I'm like going through my list and I'm like, oh man, we were going to talk about Mr. Perfect on Paper. I have to shout that out by Jean Meltzer because that was the last book Rachel and I talked about reading together and then the world fell apart. But yeah, their Sweet Coastal Reunion by Kaylee Newell. Very typical, like girl goes home to her small town. This is set in Oregon. I feel like I'm reading more and more romances with small towns set in Oregon or just on like that part of the country, which I personally love because
Random.
when I started reading romance, I started with Debbie Makeover and she sets a lot of hers in like Washington state. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I feel like things are coming full circle. But this is her, the heroine goes back. Her adoptive mom is older and is showing signs of like early dementia, and she owns a candy shop. The heroine's like a high school teacher, so she's like, it's the summer, I'll work at the shop and then I'll just get a teaching job here. And it's her romance with the guy that like upended her life in high school. He's like
No,
the local
nice.
police chief. He's a single dad. I believe the little girl's mom passed away or something like that. But of course, like the little girl comes into the candy shop and like falls in love with her, and it kind of thrusts them together more often. It's cute. It's book one in her Sisters of Christmas Bay series. The second book has already come out. It forgetting what it's called, but I can see the cover. It has like this amazing like baseball dugout cover on it. It's adorable. But yeah, that was my first book by her, and I was like, I need more. Like, give me more
Nice.
books by her. So that was the next fave. What's your next one?
Well, next one is classic. It's Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret by
Oh
Judy
yeah,
Blume.
because you saw the
Yes,
movie.
and I absolutely loved the movie. I gave it a 10 out of 10. Perfect score. I
Good.
mean, I came home to write about it and I was like, I have no critiques. Like it was perfect in my
I
opinion.
love
It
that.
was absolutely wonderful. And then I read the book before I listened to it on audiobook. It's a quick read. It's only in 3 hours on audiobook. So if people, are wondering about it, like it's a, easy one to finish in a morning, no problem. But I thought it held up very, very well, and
Mm-hmm.
of capturing an authentic voice of a teenager wondering about so many things that you wonder about when you're a teenager, about God, about life, about her parents, about what she wants to do, about her friends, what kind of friends she wants to have. There's a point where she's like, I don't even know if I want to be friends with you, with her friend Nancy. The characters are nuanced and relatable and lovely and funny and sweet. This is not your like sullen, miserable teenage character that I
Yeah.
hate. And in a
Sorry, not sorry. I get tired of the miserable
yeah,
teenager
the
on
worst.
screen. They're
The
not all like
worst.
that.
No.
So are they teens or is she like, are they like
She's like
preteens?
I think she's 11.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that is such a
3 or
time
12.
of like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
I feel like, as a mom, I feel like I don't see a lot of that age group represented anymore on TV.
Yeah. 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 I mean, that is one thing that I feel like we've kind of was something nice that the Disney Channel actually did kind of cater to those preteen, because most of the DComs and other things were actually made for, I mean, a lot of times they were about teenagers, but they really were made for just younger. And it's too bad a show like The Babysitter's Club only got 2 seasons, because that was a great show for that demographic. So well written, so well done. But yeah, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret is a really special movie, and I can't recommend it more highly. And the book was also wonderful.
Yeah. I feel like that preteen age, or just, I don't know, teenagers in general, it's like, my daughter's 14, and she, if she's watching something, it's usually like a horror, which I think a lot of teenagers go through that phase anyway, or something on YouTube. And I'm like, man, you're not getting that experience that I had of like teen shows to just sit and watch during the summer.
There's a lot made for younger kids, and then there's a lot made for just older, but that like 10 to 14 kind of 10 to 13 kind of age
gets
is
lost in the sauce.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's true.
Well, I love that you went and you loved it, because that brings me hope. If it's great, maybe that demographic will get more to watch.
And I think it might be on like Peacock or one of the streamers, so check that and see, because it's definitely worth checking out.
Yay. And so the book held up too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. I think your daughter would really like it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I read 2 graphic novels. I guess there kind of is a romance in it. They're by Bree Paulson. The first one's called Garlic and the Vampire, and then the second one is Garlic and the Witch. You literally are following a little garlic, and she has to like save the day for this village. It's so adorable. I feel like it's one of those series that in some states would probably be banned, because I'm sorry, but there are a couple of non-binary pieces of vegetables that live in the town, you guys. But the artwork is so beautiful. In the first one, like, they believe that there's this castle they can see from the distance, and there's rumors that there's a vampire there. And so everybody's like, well, Garlic, obviously you have to be the one to go and get rid of him. And so she like musters the courage, regardless of how small she is. And she goes, and the vampire is like the sweetest person ever. And they immediately become friends. And so then it's like, let's take the journey back and introduce you to everybody. And it's adorable, you guys. I feel like it's kind of like a middle grade-ish graphic novel series. There's only 2. I wish that there were more. At the end of the second one, all of the vegetables are kind of transformed into humans. Like, we learn kind of like this was a temporary thing. They were born this way, but they were as they grew up, this is what they would be. And so we do get to see Garlic have a romance with the carrot. And I just figured that's what was going to happen.
It makes me think of in the movie Elf.
Yeah. It's so
when they're doing
good.
the pitch sessions in the thing, and they're like, the one guy's like, it's about a tomato, and they're the one tomato. But there you go. It can work.
Yes.
It can work.
So yeah, Bree Paulson, Garlic and the Vampire, and Garlic and the Witch. You guys, if anything, just flip through it for the beautiful artwork. I was screenshotting the heck out of it. It was stunning, but the story's good too. So
today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by W Rated, the podcast where we willingly watch the world's worst rated movies. Join me, Daisy,
and me, Claire, as we break down the IMDb Bottom 100, choosing a different film from the list every episode.
We take a deep dive into the plot, production, release, and reviews, usually with a special guest, to uncover if these films are truly as bad as everyone says they are.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Good Pods, and anywhere else you find your podcasts.
What do you have
Well,
next?
next is another one that we interviewed on the pod, but this wasn't a sponsor, but is Stars and Swashbucklers by Lila Fitzgerald.
I love that
And
name.
I know. And I'm normally not a fantasy person, but I love Lila. I think she is just unbelievable. So accomplished. She's only 19 and she's been in so many of these, Hallmark, so many movies, shows, not just Hallmark, but all over. She's this incredible ballerina. She's like out sailing. And then she writes this book. And, I was ready to just kind of be like, okay, good job, write a book. But I thought it was really well done. Like,
love that.
I loved the lore and the action was really fun. The banter between the characters. There is kind of a romantic plot. And it's kind of it's a bit of like a steampunk kind of feel.
Okay.
The things it's kind of similar in some ways to like Treasure Planet, if you've ever seen, with like ships in the sky and stuff like that. But I don't know, it really worked for me. I thought it was a very fun adventure. And I think if you are the kind of person who likes fantasy stories like this, I'll just say that, like, it said that this is welcome to the broken world, stuck in steerage on the maiden voyage of the luxury airship the Hallthrow. 16-year-old Anya is determined to make her brother happy by accepting the fate their dead father used to recite to her, like an average that like having that her dead father used to say average lives for average girls. But when an encounter with a dashing stranger lands Anya in the middle of a cutthroat race to find a relic that could change the fate of the islands, average is no longer an option. Compelled by the whispering of the stars that have always promised her something more, Anya finds herself secretly working as a privateer and falling for her partner in crime. But her treasure hunt through the stars soon turns. The nightmares are getting worse, and Anya is beginning to wonder if they're more than just dreams.
Oh wow.
Isn't that fun?
That's
fun?
Amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
So,
and she's 19?
Yeah.
That's
amazing.
Great.
So
amazing.
I think it's genuinely a really good book, especially if you enjoy that kind of adventure.
Yeah. I have never read a steampunk. I'll have to pick it up because I've been wanting to venture into steampunk so I can know what when people are like, oh, it's a steampunk novel. I'm like, oh, I read one of those.
Yeah, I mean, they're fun for literature. They've really struggled whenever anyone tries to adapt them for movies. Some of the worst movies like ever made are steampunk.
Just leave them in the books. Just leave them in books.
Right, yeah, it doesn't translate well to the screen. But yeah, I was very impressed with her for there. That was really good. I have to say, I reread Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter because I was just like, I need it. I love this book so much.
Well, you mentioned Babysitter's Club. I did read a Babysitter's Club mystery, and it was called Mallory and the Ghost Cat. Guys, if you, like Rachel, are a fan of Babysitter's Club, get on your library, get on Libby. They tend to have there was only 39 of these. They are so good. The mysteries, they're really good. So yeah, I just have another honorable mention. They're so good.
Is that the only Babysitter's Club you've read? Is just the mysteries?
Yeah. I never read any of the regular series. I'm starting with the mysteries because there's only 38 or 39 of them. But I love how in every first or second chapter they reintroduce everybody, so I do feel like I know all the characters. I know why Claudia is why they have the meetings in her room. I know why Christy's the president.
Oh, those are so good.
My next pick is by Nan Reinhardt. It's called Home to River's Edge. This is with Thule Publishing. So like one of our faves here, Stacey Agdern, that's the publisher she's with. Thule gives us quite a bit of Hallmark adaptations. I know GAC has done a couple. Like a lot of our favorite like Christmas movies have come from Thule novels. So I'm hoping that Nan, like this series, this town she's created, it's on the Ohio River. I'm like, guys, Hallmark, come on, Nan Reinhardt, she's got us. So in Home to River's Edge, the hero of the novel, he built this house for him and his, I don't think they actually got married, fiance named Amy. And then she has an aneurysm and passes away. And he has not stepped foot in the house since he lost her. So he's on the road, standing out in front, like next to his car. Like, if it's destined, if you want me to go in there, Amy, give me a sign. And then his ex-girlfriend from high school, who he dumped days before prom, she's on her way back from Washington, D.C. She was like some in the politics world, like a chief of staff or somebody who was a really shisty, grimy person. She found out some stuff that this woman had did, called her out on it, and she's basically like blacklisted, like, we don't go against this person kind of thing. So she's going back home to like Indiana or something. And she swerves to hit a deer and she runs right into the back of his car as he's praying to his ex, like, give me a sign.
A little bit vehicular meet cute.
Yeah. So she gets out and she's angry and she like goes into her trunk and pulls out a bottle of whiskey and she's like, here, take a shot. And he's like, that's the sign. Cause that was Amy's favorite drink was whiskey. He's like, okay, got it. He's like, you have to come up here with me. And so it's a fun second chance small town romance. Nan is so good at the small town thing. Like there's a diner there that you see in this book in the previous series. Like I feel like I'm there every time I read it. I'm just like, Hallmark, Netflix, somebody. Like romance has so many fictional small towns that I think would just translate so well to film, and this is one of them. So this is the beginning of the Weaver Sisters series. So Jazz is the heroine in this one. She has 2 other sisters, they're triplets. And so the next books will be theirs. So this is Home to River's Edge by Nan Reinhardt. You guys,
nice.
It's fabulous.
That sounds good. Well, my next one is one author you just mentioned, Stacey Agdern, the Bina Mitzvah Mistake. She did sponsor the pod for this one, and I did interview her. And this was really fun. It's basically about this woman who decides to go through the bar mitzvah process as an adult. Mm-hmm. And evidently that's, thing that a lot of different people do. But she ends up taking the classes and getting kind of paired up with this guy who is I forget, Ash. His name is Ash. And he was her first love, high school crush kind of a thing. But then he ended up, her sister's an agent, and he's a hockey player, and he kind of dumped her sister for a different agent. And at the time, this was very devastating for her sister. And so she feels all this resentment about how he treated her sister, but now they have to start taking these classes together. And maybe she didn't know the whole story, all the sides, all this kind of thing. And so it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Stacey's so good. Shout out to Stacey.
Yes.
I knew she I was like, oh, it's a hockey romance.
Yeah, she loves hockey.
Everybody loves hockey romance right now. So,
yeah.
What else do I want to talk about? Okay, I have, let me see. I'm going to talk about. Let's do Lightning Strike. Okay, Lightning Strikes Twice by Elizabeth Ribb. So this is another Harlequin special edition. I feel like I'm in my special edition era. The heroine in this one is a livestock vet. Her father has recently had some heart failure, so she goes home. And one of the ranch hands has like no ranch experience, but needed the money, but he's actually like a storm photographer, and it's total dislike at first. Like she does not like him at all. But the more she gets to know him and she hangs out with him and his friends who kind of like just chase these storms to like get the perfect shot, she gets to know more about him. And I thought it was really fun. There is a tornado at the end. Like this was total Twister vibes, you guys. But I think it is such a fun, like, I think it would be like a really fun summer read. I read it. I think it's more like spring vibes, but I don't know. I live here in Texas and I don't think we're going to get much more rain than we already have. So just like that adventure, that being outdoors, beautiful lightning shots and things like that, and found family. I thought it was a really fun read. And this is her special edition debut. She is an actual nurse in real life. And the best friend in this book, the best friend in the book is a traveling nurse. So I'm hoping the next book is going to be hers. We'll see. But yeah, really looking forward to more from her. So that's Lightning Strikes Twice by Elizabeth Ribb.
That sounds good.
Good.
They get a lot of really good stories at Harlequin. It gets a bum rap.
Yeah,
they really do.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Okay, so the next one that I wanted to talk about, another sponsor of the podcast, is really almost all I've been reading. The Words We Lost by Nicole Deese. I really enjoyed. This is if you want like a more emotional type story, romance kind of a thing. So basically what happens is she has a very dear friend who is a writer, and the friend passes away before she can finish this final book, and she puts in the will that her and this guy have to finish. I forget, Joel is his name. Have to finish this book. They have to, like, clues to find the book, the missing manuscript, and then to work on it together. And I thought that it was a really good story of friendship, not only between them, the two leads, and their repairing friendship, but also this mutual friendship they had with this woman named Cecilia and their love for her. And it was I thought it was well done.
Okay. I was like, the title, I was like, is this women's fiction? Like, what's going on?
Honoring Cecilia's last request will challenge their convictions and test their loyalties, but through it all, will Ingrid and Joel be brave enough to uncover a twice in a lifetime love?
Wow. Okay. Oh my gosh, I have like a couple. Okay, another couple of honorable mentions. Her Island Homecoming by Anna J. Stewart. This is a Harlequin heartwarming. You guys, it's a small town romance in Hawaii. I was like, when's the last time I ever read one of those? So total summer vibes. You have to go get your copy of that. This next one is more women's fiction. It's called The Garnett Girls by Georgina Moore. Set on like seaside over in like the UK somewhere. Fabulous look at mother-daughter relationships, the great love that you lost and the ripple effects of that. Highly recommend that. And The Seaside Library by Brenda Novak was a fun murder mystery. It gave me kind of vibes of I Know What You Did Last Summer. Like, we're covering for our friend. Like there's like a 30-minute time gap where he wasn't with us, but we were teenagers, and we're going to say that he was with us, and we don't believe that he murdered this 12-year-old girl. But 20 years later, her sister is in town and she is determined to seek justice. But yeah, you have to read it. The whodunit. Some people guessed it. I kind of figured it out, but I'm still one of those readers. Like I'm like not trying to figure it out. Like I want everything to unravel for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I was holding my breath the whole time. But I think that my next actual favorite was The Sweetheart List by Jill Shalvis, which is book 4 in her Sunrise Cove series. None of the books in this series are connected. The only connector is they are set in the same small town. Heroine in this one comes to Sunrise Cove. It's like fictional kind of like suburb of Lake Tahoe, I guess. That's where Jill lives. And she skids into town. She's speeding. She doesn't realize that they still have like snow in June or July sometimes. And she skids in, hits a bush. The hero walks out and he's like, you just need some kitty litter and you should be able to back up. Velma walks out from Scooby-Doo, walks out of the bookstore because it's like the night celebrating great female detectives. So like in that first scene, she meets like her new BFF and the love interest, and it's a fun his family is great. Jill Shalvis does great with like family banter, and we may talk a lot of crap to each other and give each other a hard time, but we have each other's backs. Like I feel like I was welcomed into that family. And yeah, like some surprise baby action in there. I love the kind of twist on that. But yeah, it was great. Total like summer read. I think everybody should pick up. So
that sounds fun. I need to read that author because you mentioned her a bunch of times.
Rachel, you will love her.
Well,
so what are yours?
Yeah, I guess some honorable mentions. One that I enjoyed was called I'm Not Charlotte Lucas by Casey Stockton.
Okay.
And Charlotte Lucas is a character from Pride and Prejudice, and this character like loves Pride and Prejudice, and I actually really don't like the book Austenland, even though I'm a huge, obviously, Austen fan. For some reason, Shannon Hale, I love her in many ways, but her adult novels have just not worked for me at all. I really dislike The Actor and the Housewife, and I really disliked Austenland, and for a lot of reasons. And I really don't like that movie either, Austenland. I just think it totally misses the whole point of Jane Austen and her stories. But nevertheless, I think this is the same kind of idea, but I think it gets it much better. It's a lot better. Basically, it's about this girl who is named after this character in Pride and Prejudice, loves Pride and Prejudice, super fan, but she's kind of shy, and but she gets this chance to go to this Regency kind of ball that they're doing for charity. And she's not going to go, but she does kind of because she wants to go to a ball, and one of her friends, an older woman that she's friends with, sets her up with her grandson or nephew or what, I can't remember, but anyway, sets her up, doesn't tell her that he's like a famous movie star.
Love it.
She's like, what? Oh my gosh. And so she's on this date with this movie star, and I forget his name, but anyway, and she just is like, I can't believe, like, what would this movie star be interested in me? But Liam is his name. They actually hit it off really well, and it was fun. It was a fun, silly, enjoyable little book with a lot of little, sort of homages and Pride and Prejudice, a lot of Jane Austen kind of things. It basically did what Austenland was trying to do, but in my opinion failed. This is successful. Let's see some other ones that I liked. I mean, I enjoyed The Heart's Choice by Tracy Peterson. I read one of Jenny Mart's cowboy books because she was on the podcast recapping Ride.
I love her.
And she's great. And I enjoyed it. It was called How to Cowboy, and was actually surprisingly emotional, that one.
Yeah.
Because he's divorced, and his ex-wife dies in a car accident, and he's called in to basically all of a sudden become the primary caregiver for his daughter. So there was more emotion there than you'd expect. Windswept Way by Irene Hannon. I really enjoyed talking with her and having her on the pod. That was enjoyable. Second Chance Romance. Second Time Around, Melody Carlson, also had her on. That was, funny, kind of self-explanatory. I read for book club, I read The Last Anniversary, Liane Moriarty, and it was definitely her weakest book that I've read.
I want to read one of hers. She's one of those, is she like does she have some beach? No. Does she have some beach reads or just like more women's fiction?
Women's fiction. But I recommend What Alice Forgot. I think that's her best book.
Okay.
Yeah. And Big Little Lies is good as well. I think the first season of the show is almost better.
Okay.
But it's still a good book. The second season is not good. I think it's pretty much everything.
What are you hoping to read
After the
summer?
Shadows by Amanda Cabot.
Okay.
That one, it was actually a pretty good mystery. She comes back home and she her dad has died. They had a hard relationship. The more she dives into it, the more she's like, what is happening and what happened? And there's this like killer, and this is set in the 1880s, Texas. So I feel like I've just been reading a lot of Texas books lately.
It's a sign. What are you hoping to read this summer? Like I saw that Danielle Steele has a new book coming out called The Palazzo, and I've never read a Danielle Steele, and I'm like, maybe this summer will be the summer that I finally read a Danielle Steele so I could say I've read it.
Yeah.
That we have to read. It comes out in like December. It's a Wizard of Oz retelling. It's called The Fairy Tale Life of Dorothy Gale. And I was like, I got to tell Rachel about
this. So I have on the next thing I'm reading for the podcast is The Best Summer of Our Lives by Rachel Hawk. I was actually they were going to sponsor the pod for the end of June, but she was going to be out of town, and we just couldn't work it out. But sometime in July we'll have Rachel on the podcast, and I'll read that book.
That cover is adorable.
Yeah, so that's coming up next. And I also have there's a more recent Curvy Girls book, Curvy Girls Can't Date Surfers, that I really want to read by Kelsey Steltine. I really love her writing. I mean, she what she does that's so smart is she takes this, gimmick of Curvy Girls, but she crafts, like, she uses it to hook you in, but then she crafts like really good stories around that, and I've enjoyed every single one of her books that I have read. So that one's on there. The Curvy Girls Can't Date Surfers.
So we have to do like a summer romance reading wrap up.
Yeah, that'd be
I feel like we're gonna be on it this summer, and we're gonna read some good stuff.
Yeah. What else was I thinking of that I really want to read? Well, I should mention here that my sister has had 2 books this year out. So you want to check those out. One called Squished, about a big blended family. And then another about, it's a well, they're both graphic novels, but it's what's the full title? It's about a super pancake.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's really cute.
Look, there's no judgment here. I literally read a graphic novel about a garlic. So
oh yeah.
read.
It's Super Pancake, a graphic novel, Megan Wagner Lloyd. It's a lot of fun, really cute illustrations. So people should check that out.
Yes.
I'm obviously biased, but I think she's really good.
Well, this was fun. Listeners,
Yes.
like, we're going to be recapping some movies here soon.
Yes, I'm
TV
so
has been good to
excited.
us.
Yes. I mean, I am not kidding. Up TV has been better than Hallmark 2023.
I'm there with you.
I mean, if you take, we've
And
got
it's crazy because
from-
Rachel, they went a couple months where I feel like they didn't even really put out anything.
Yeah. So up to yeah, they had like spiritual stuff in April, hardly any like actual like movies. They had like Whitney Houston concert or things like that. So they've had Up TV has had Happy Camper, which was solid.
Great movie. Yeah.
And then they had Mixed Baggage, which was one of the best ever.
Yeah.
And then they had Just Jake, which was really good, and which was solid. And then, and I want to read that book too, because I really enjoyed talking to Jennifer Engel, which is a episode that will be coming. And then they had The Wedding Wish, which I really enjoyed, and then The Secret Sauce, which was cute. That's more than Hallmark's had.
Yeah.
In 2023, that's been good.
Yeah.
It's
when I was watching The Wedding Wish yesterday, which I mean, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't see Hallmark doing this. And this is what I'm talking about. Like both of those characters felt like a totally just different demographic. I think maybe age-wise. And I'm like, this is what you have to start pulling that age demographic in.
Yeah. It's true.
For the buy-in.
It's true. It's true. And it was just really funny.
Fun.
So
it was fun.
Yeah. So we'll be talking about that coming up. And it was so fun to talk to you about books. Let us know what you've been reading, and we'll put our Goodreads and stuff down, or affiliate links if you want to check out any of the books that we're talking about. Take a look at that. And Bree, where can people find you and your podcast? What are you all doing right now on the pod?
I can be found at Bree Unabashedly on Instagram, the Twitters, the TikTok. Rachel came and chatted, romance made for TV with me on the podcast, which was just one of the best episodes that's come out recently. So thank you. The Categorically Romance podcast, talking romance novels, chatting with friends, having a good time. So that's where I'm at.
Very good. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes to check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us a lot. Only takes a few minutes of your time. And those 5-star reviews really, really help the podcast. And if you are watching YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have the Patreon group, which is an amazing way to help us. And you get weekly exclusive reviews and our monthly watch alongs that we do with talent. It's so much fun. Check that out. And then we have the merch store, which is a lot of fun. So take a look at that. And thanks so much. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye, everybody.